Welcome, Miss Lim. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. The Smile Guild and Girl of Northern Emirates have collaborated on a breast cancer awareness month initiative. The Smile Guild is an award winning non profit organization focusing on mental health. And the Girl of Northern Emirates is an undertaking of the United Nations Foundation, which focuses on women empowerment. Thank you for taking your time out and helping us spread awareness about this important issue today.
For our audience who may not be familiar, Agnes Lim is the founder of Medicus Network Limited, headquartered in Singapore. It is a digital platform for individuals to access medical attention across 39 disciplines. Her other two companies work in conjunction with the Medicus Network through a centralized system that provides offline support in Cambodia and Singapore. It not only helps individuals receive special care, but also allowed professionals to network and broaden their patient base to China and Southeast Asia. Muslim also has more than 20 years of experience working in business development, brand retail, management, and insurance in the region. She is also a cancer survivor. It's a
Thank you very
pleasure to
much.
have you here, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and thank you for the kind introduction. I'm ready to go. So let's just get on with the questions.
Yes, ma'am. You've worked as a business advisor and a business development manager for more than 20 years. What diverted your interest towards healthcare?
Oh, okay. Of course, first of all, because I'm a cancer survivor, I see things. All right. And also because, coming from the corporate side, when you're in a corporate, when you have your corporate life, there are certain systems that you follow, there are certain KPIs that you follow, and somehow or other, it's learning that organized, going through that organized way of running a business will reap very intangible benefits. So when I was under treatment for cancer, two things that I noticed. The first thing was the technology and the advancement, the very rapid advancement of new drugs on the market, new treatment on the market. It was so fast. It's like every year, sometimes it's within 6 months, new things sprout out from different parts of the world. And it never ceased to amaze me. All right. So this was something that I felt that it should be shared, not just in advanced countries, but even in third world countries where the equipment may not be there, the skills may not be there, but there must be surely a way to share it because this is not 19 not, this is the 22nd, you know, century almost, So what the other thing which is very close to my heart is that when I was going through treatment, uh, I felt very alone. Now, being alone and being lonely are two different things. You can have a lot of friends, so you're not lonely. But when you feel alone, it can be very scary because no one else can get to the deepest part of yourself. And you actually feel very, how do I say, you feel that you are away from the warmth, you are away from all the things that a human actually need innately. And I find that in almost all the cancer patients that I met over these 10 years, uh, everyone is alone at some point in their life, whether they're extroverts or they're introverts or they are people with lots and lots of friends. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I can use my corporate experience to marry the technology so that these people who are suffering doesn't have to feel doesn't have to do the journey alone. Nobody who is sick, who is so sick, whether it's cancer or it's a heart problem or it's some other critical illness, should actually feel alone, you know. So I thought the best way is to actually corporatize it and make it a proper business, so that everyone that I actually uh, meet, everyone that that I can touch, will be able to benefit from all this. So thus I tell myself, okay, I start small. I start very, very small, but you know, you have to start somewhere. So that's how I came to it. And well, the journey has been very meaningful, because when I started the treatment, you must remember it was 17 years ago. The treatment, yes, I've survived for 17 years. So for those of you who are listening, don't worry, you know, at whichever stage of illness that you are in, the medicine get better and better every year. So when I first started, uh, everybody was afraid of the after effects. And usually, anyone doing cancer treatment, there are two things that you definitely have to go through. One is you have nausea after the treatment. The other one is you have either diarrhea or constipation. And it may sound like it may sound normal, you know, but if you have it every day of your life for 6 months, it's not funny. All right. So when we started, the medicine was rough. It was not as refined as today. And for breast cancer, at that point in time, Herceptin, which is the drug that at that time was the top drug, it was so expensive that not the average working class person could not afford it. It was like 6,000 Sing dollars per dose. And most people have to go through at least 6 to 8 doses. All right. So the poor, so I asked my friends, I said, so if somebody is very poor and living in the province and have no access, what do you all do? Keep quiet, lor. That's how they responded. Just keep quiet. So I said, oh dear, you know, and that was a drug that the only drug that we know that could cure, well, or at least put the cancer at bay. But these days, you have immunotherapy. Immunotherapy actually is not a cancer drug. It actually works on your immune system, and it prevents the cells from actually multiplying. But the side effects are a lot kinder. You don't suffer as much side effects, because a lot of people, they get cured of their cancer, but they die anyway because they couldn't handle the side effects. So it's, people don't die from cancer. This day and age, especially in advanced countries, people don't die from cancer. You die from the side effect of the treatment because your body is too weak to handle the side effect. So can you imagine how exciting it is if you're in a position where you can actually bring the doctor to the patient and they don't have to pay an arm and a leg, and they have the chance to get treated. So it's actually very meaningful. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer, Ms. Lim. Moving on to the second question. You were a cancer patient yourself and led medical networks that help such patients. Could you walk us through your personal journey and share a few insights with our audience from your experience with other cancer patients?
Okay. There's lots to share, but I guess the rite of passage that I went through actually bring me not only closer to the treatment, but also closer to death. So, you know, it's like you are given a second lease of life, you know, and the one thing that I live through and I live through every day is I live in gratitude, because I feel that I've been given a second chance at life. So I always share and say that, oh, this is my second lease of life. I'm 17 years old today because I was supposed to go, but 17 years on, I'm still here. So I'm not an old lady. I'm actually 17 years old because of my second lease of life. But having said that, one of the reasons I started this side of the business is because I was so grateful to the doctors who actually treated me. Because you know, when you have cancer, you most of the time you will see like at least 4 or 5 doctors. All right. You don't just see a cancer doctor. You see the first one, they diagnose you with cancer, and then you have a weak heart, so you have to go to the cardiologist to make sure that your heart can handle the surgery and all the treatment that's going to follow. Then you have to go to the dental surgeon to make sure that there's no cavities in your mouth, because once they start the radio and something goes wrong, you can't go back and get treated for your teeth. You actually have to pull all your teeth out or patch up your cavities. Then you have to see, and if you're lucky, why do I say lucky? Because those cancer patients that are able to do surgery, those that qualify for surgery, they actually have a chance to remove all the cancers that is in the body. So don't be afraid that you have to go for surgery. It's actually good news. Anyone who has cancer and the doctor says, oh, you have to go for surgery, don't worry, you won't die during surgery, because they're just removing a tumor. And it is good news because it means that your cancer has not spread that badly, or it has not spread, and you still have a chance. And then you have to see the chemo doctor, all right? And then you may have to see the radiotherapy doctor. And for breast cancer, most of the time, even if it's in the early stage, the doctors will usually prescribe, if you can, whether you can or you can't have surgery, a course of radiotherapy is usually necessary for breast cancer. All right. So you have so many doctors, but if you have all the right combination of doctors, then your journey is very different. You have a smoother journey because the doctors talk to one another. All right, you have a smoother journey because they are collaborating to make sure that they have the best. You have the best concoction of treatment, and the fear factor is lessened. All right, so that is the insight that I I want to share. And the other thing is, there are three things that will cross the mind of most cancer patients. The first one is fear. It's something that you can't explain. You're afraid of everything. But of course, you're afraid of the first thing you think of, whether it's first stage or in situ. In situ is just the stage before you have first stage cancer, or it's third stage. Everybody thinks of death. It's inevitable. You ask your friends. All of us will think of death, including me. I was terrified. All right. And the second thing is, you will actually have this feeling that, oh, I'm going to uh, you know all the things that can go wrong is going to go wrong because I'm not myself, and you'll be very anxious. And then some days, when you have had a good day the day before, someone kind spend time with you, manage to comfort you and bring you some good news, or your doctor says, oh, your tumor is shrinking or something like that, you feel that, oh gosh, I have hope. And then the next day when you wake up, breast cancer patients, they lose hair. So when you're combing your hair and it's like suddenly you see this big clump of hair that comes out, and then you see the bald patch there, it's a feeling that it's very hard to explain. Not everybody lose hair. You lose hair because of the medication. You don't lose hair because of the cancer. But a lot of people think that it's part of the cancer, because you actually feel worse before you can feel better. In cancer, it's very strange. All right. The doctor has identified what they're suffering from. They actually prescribe a course of treatment. And then, of course, they don't tell you what's going to happen. Usually, I try to tell my patient the stages, but the doctors will not tell you, because from their experience, they know when you have a petrified patient, it's very difficult to handle. So what happens is, you will definitely go through these three. You will be fearful, you'll be anxious, you'll be unreasonable when you're anxious, and then you keep thinking of death. So these are the things that almost every cancer patient go through, even the guys. all right, they have their cancers, you know. I had one patient that came up to me. Um, he says, you know, Agnes, can you tell me what radiotherapy is like? So I say, oh, radiotherapy, you don't have to worry. The side effects will come a lot later. All right, it won't come immediately. Then he says, do I lie down on the bed and then the doctor just go, and he actually said, cha, you know, all the rays come onto me and hit me. So I said, where on earth did you get the idea from? He says, well, my friends, when they come back, they are so badly burned. You know, in the old days, you know, if you have the old type of radiotherapy treatment, you actually turn black because of the exposure to the rays, you know. And that was what he heard happen. So he says, so I just lie down. Is it painful when the rays hit me? So I said, no, it's not like that. So when I explained to him what the process is, so he calmed down, but he was still fearful until the day itself when he said, actually it's nothing. I was expecting worse, you know. So these are all the things that people go through. I'm going to take a bit of time because this story is very important. Now, for myself personally, I had to go through uh, what they call a world-time hysterectomy, which means they take away all your childbearing organs. All right, I had to, and then after that, I had to go through consecutive, you know, chemo and radio. So I'm actually a PhD in cancer. All right, I graduate from all these things. So what happened is when I had my surgery, of course I was fearful like everyone else, but it was quite funny because I knew a very good surgeon, so that helped me kind of go through that first section. I had one of the best cancer gynecologist who is also an oncologist in Singapore. So we went through the surgery. But what happened was that night, the night after the surgery, I think it's got something to do with the anesthetic. The anesthetic must have the physical, you know, in anesthetic, you have three parts, you know. One looks after your body, one looks after your mind, and the other one, I can't remember what it does. But, you know, I think I actually, my mind woke up before my body did. So I had this nightmare. This is straight after the surgery. I had this nightmare, and during the nightmare, this evil person was dragging my leg. And this evil person actually told me that, hey, you're going to die within a year. Don't be so happy with yourself just because you went through the surgery. And I was terrified and woke up. And I dragged my catheter, and there was all kinds of tubes attached to me. I dragged everything and I went outside. And there was just one night nurse outside. I dragged out and I said, and then she looked at me and I said, I just had a nightmare and I'm scared. And you know what the nurse said? Don't tell me, I'm afraid too, you know? So it was kind of funny because it's like you're supposed to comfort me and then you tell me that you are scared. And then she started telling me stories about which units, you know, which wards people see things in the ward. And that frightened me all the more. So finally, she gave me a drink and then I sat down there and I was actually afraid to go back to the room because you know that the evil person is there. Because when you're not yourself, all kinds of funny thoughts go through your head, and then sometimes it's not even you imagine all kind of things. So I sat there and for a while, and then I looked at the nurse. She was terrified. All right, she was really terrified. So I sat down and I said, God, please help, because if I go back into that room, I'm afraid. I'm really scared that I'll get the nightmare again. If I stay here and don't go back, this nurse will be coming to work every day. After the session, I'm going home. All right. But this nurse will be here every day. And she probably thought that I saw a ghost inside that ward. She'll be more frightened than me for the rest of her tenure at the hospital. So I said, I tell you what, God, let's do a deal. I go back. I drag all my stuff. I go back to the room. I'm going to lie down. And you make me sleep. You knock me out. Whichever way you can, you knock me out. so that I can go to sleep and we are all none the worse. So I went back, and amazingly, within a few minutes, I hear this voice, and this is the truth. I hear this voice here on my left side, and he says, actually called my name. And this voice says, Agnes, you're gonna be okay. Go to sleep. So I went to sleep and I woke up the next morning. So you would think that everything is, nice and rosy. What happened was the doctor came with good news. He removed whatever was necessary, but he also had bad news because there was some leakage in the lymph, and I had to do radio and chemotherapy. And at that time, I have no idea what it was. You don't know how to be frightened because you don't know what it is. That was like 17 years ago. All right. And I said, why? He says, oh, just to be sure, in Singapore, we have this thing called kiasu. Kiasu is afraid to lose. It's a colloquial term. And just to be kiasu, he says, we'll do these two things as well so that your cancer doesn't come back. He was right, of course, but I didn't know what was in. So I went home. 2 weeks later, we started the treatment. Nothing happened the first two times. But as the treatment progressed, the side effects started coming. And you can see I'm very small size. All right. I'm not a big person. As the chemo progressed, it got worse and worse. And it got to the point where I couldn't take the chemo anymore because this was concurrent. The beginning of the week you have your chemo, and then the rest of the week, the next 5 days, you have your radio every day. So after a while, after the fifth chemo, I couldn't handle the treatment anymore. I was supposed to have a sixth one, and the doctor says no, your body just simply cannot go on. So I said, gosh, if I can't finish the treatment, it means I won't get well. Because, they have already arranged for the treatment. So the doctor says, but if I give you the treatment, you will not make it. You might die of a heart attack. So I said, okay, I don't want to die yet. My daughter is still young. I don't want to die yet. Okay, I'll just pray a bit harder, and, hope to hear that voice again. But I says, okay, fine. I stopped the chemo. Then what happens to the radio? So he says the radio continues because you won't get the side effect of the radio until much later. And this is my personal journey. Because of the doctors, because of the friends I have, because of the belief that I hold very dear, I made it, But when you come to a personal journey, it is what is inside. How you handle it is first of all, your own belief. Secondly, it is what is inside. Sometimes a lot of patients are in denial. Sometimes they have this thing that, oh, I must have done something very bad in my life and I'm being punished for it. Have you met anybody like that?
Yes.
And that is the furthest from the truth, because, a lot of cancers, they're hereditary, and a lot of cancers, you also, is from pollution. A lot of cancers, and sometimes we joke, we say, when the doctors don't know how to deal with your stress, they tell you it's cancer. There's a joke among the patients actually say, yeah, the doctor always say it's cancer when they can't explain why you are sick, But the thing is, actually, it's got nothing to do with what you did. I mean, there are a lot of monks, there are a lot of priests, there are a lot of people who are very holy, and they lead very pure lives. And you see them in the hospitals, Does it mean they have sinned? It's got nothing to do with what you did or what your family did, It is something that just happened because we are in a fallen world, So a lot of patients, when you have the chance to share with them, especially the younger patients, you have to tell them that it is not your fault that you have cancer. It is something that happens because of the pollution, because of things which are in your genes, because it's not even because of the food you eat, it just happens because there are lots of free radicals in your body. It's a biological thing, and if you're a very healthy person, you do a lot of exercises, it doesn't mean you will not get cancer. So it attacks cancer doesn't there's no prejudice. It attacks the rich, the poor, the fit, the weak. It attacks young, it attacks the old, the very young. All right. A lot of the time is how you handle it. But the one thing that I always tell every cancer patient, face it, it's there. It's in front of you. You got it. Face it and get on with it. Because if you don't face it, this is the most difficult step. If you don't face it will never go away. Once you face it, this is like there's this kid kicking up a lot of fuss in front of you. And if you just walk away, the kid is not going to stop crying. But if you just tell the kid, look, you're not going to get what you want. You want to cry, you cry now. You can create a fuss in front of me. I'm not going to give you what you want. This is what you should tell the cancer. Face it and get on with the treatment. So this is what I have to share on the personal side, you know.
Your story was truly inspirational and beautiful. Going through cancer is definitely not easy. To put it in perspective, in general, how much of a toll does cancer take on your mental and physical health? And what would a typical day look like in those shoes?
Mentally, you can become a different person. You can become very selfish because you're thinking of yourself all the time. You become very myopic. Oh, I got this spot in my skin. Oh, today I couldn't eat my breakfast. Oh, the food tastes terrible. And food is going to taste worse and worse because you lose your taste buds. Somewhere along the treatment, you actually lose your sense of taste. But a lot of cancer patients don't know that they lose it, but the taste comes back. When you finish all your treatment, you actually get your taste buds back. Like you lose all of it. I lost, I think, almost all of it, except I could taste sweet things. Everything else I couldn't taste. So the first thing that came back was chili. I could taste chili. Imagine you take chili and you don't feel the heat. All right. Then you feel the saltiness. Then you feel sourness, and it comes back. So it actually changes your life. It changes you for a while. And some people actually completely withdraw because they are so depressed that they completely withdraw. And a typical day is like that. I tell you how ridiculous it can get. Somewhere in the middle of my treatment, which was like 3 months from the day I discovered it, I was, in Singapore, we all live in flats. We all live in high-rise buildings. And every day I will try to take a walk downstairs to the market, to the park, just to kind of have a different environment, not to stay in the house. And there were days when I actually stood by the curb of the road and I see an oncoming car. And I just wanted to walk and let the car run over me. And then it's kind of like you jog yourself, because you're feeling so sorry for yourself that you want to give up. All right. So it's not surprising that some people just give up, and some people who are old, they actually refuse treatment. All right. So these are things that you go through. But the worst that you have to go through is the roller coaster of emotions. All right. It is really a roller coaster. Today I wake up, I brush my teeth, I took my breakfast, I take my coffee. It tastes good. So you think that you're going to be able to make it. Then something happens after lunch. And then you say that, gosh, I'm feeling so sick. I don't want to go for treatment anymore. All right. So you go down. And then suddenly in the evening, someone visits you, prays for you, whichever religion, you believe in, prays for you. Someone that you like, someone that you have not seen for a long time, comes and spends some time with you. You suddenly feel better and you say, oh, I have hope because I'm not as bad as some of these people I see in the hospital. And this is a constant roller coaster, it doesn't stop until well after your treatment is over. And for some people, it gets worse because, the cancer comes back. And usually when it comes back the second time, it's worse, you know. But I must say that these days in the hospital, for people who are truly terrified, I've seen a breast cancer patient. The clinic has this cat. They call it a cool cat. All right. Those patients who are very terrified, they put that cat on you to kind of cool you down. And somehow or other, after a while, when they cool down, and then usually your treatment is a couple of hours, they kind of somehow manage, but it's expensive. Every time you put on that cap, it's a few $100s for that 3 hours, so it is not something that the doctor usually recommend, because doctors also, I'm talking about private doctors, doctors usually try to save money for you. If it's not necessary here in Singapore, if it's not necessary, they don't want to get a bad name, so they don't recommend treatment unless, the extra stuff, unless you really need it. All right, so I've seen patient that needs that cap for every treatment, because even putting the needle into them, you need 3 people to actually talk to her before she allows you to put the needle in. So the fear is really terrible. And then of course, you lose weight, you look terrible, nothing looks good, and for breast cancer patient, you lose hair. So you have to decide first how whether you want to go bald, you want to shave off everything so that you don't have to deal with the losing of hair every morning, or or you decide that you want to wear a wig. All right, so you have to go for all these things. And then of course, your relationship with your family suffers, because not only do they, if you have a very close knitted family, they worry about you. It takes a toll on them too. And then people worry about money, because not everybody can afford the entire treatment without worrying about money. And then as your health get worse and you cannot eat, uh, the whole house is in turmoil. All right. So what I did, you saw my cat just now, right? When we were setting it up, I was very blessed in a way, because uh, 2 months before I discovered that I had cancer, I actually got hold of a family of cats from my office. I found a family of cats that was homeless, so I brought them home. And little did I know that the cats actually brought me so much joy, because when you feel like giving up, you can't, because there's this little furry stuff, furry animals there that you actually have to handle, you have to feed them, and that cat down there, he was my pet, because every morning he will get up to my bed at 7 a.m. and he will sleep next to me. And then when I got well, he refused to come out the bed. All right. So they have animals, whether they be cats or dogs, they have this sixth sense, and it's very therapeutic actually to have them around, provided you don't have to take care of their every need. All right. So you have family members that can. Don't worry about the cats bringing dirt into the house. Uh, the comfort that they give you, uh, is well worth that trouble. So well, Ango, that's his name. I lost him 3 years back, and my housekeeper actually said I cried a lot louder than when my husband passed away. That is how things can be, right? But having said all these things, I think what I want to actually share is that when anybody is going through this, handle the feelings, the fear, whatever comes to you straight in the face, one thing at a time, and get someone to be with you when you reach a point where you can't handle it yourself. It's all right. You don't need to be strong. All right. Which I think a lot of people will tell the cancer patient, you must be strong for your family, you must be strong for your children. actually you are putting a toy on them because um, I'm struggling, I'm sick, I'm not well, I'm worried, I think I'm going to die tomorrow. And you are telling me to be strong, you know? It's not possible. So a good doctor actually told me, don't need to be strong, just be yourself, because a lot of the time it's the emotions. And one of the doctors told me that it's because there are glands that are near your kidneys. When you're having chemo medicine, the chemo medicine works on, it's the site, it kills the cancer cells, but it also affects your other organs. So one of the side effects is that these glands that actually controls your mood, help you to control your mood, don't work as well when you have chemo drugs pumped into you. So what happens is that because you can't control your moods, sometimes you don't know that you're not being nice. Sometimes you don't know that you are being hot-tempered, you're being short-tempered. Like I had a breast cancer patient very recently. She has three children, three very good children, and she has a very loving husband. During the time when she was under treatment for her breast cancer, and she had triple negative, and she had to use immunotherapy. So it was like at any time, the cancer might come back. So it's like, thank God she didn't she wasn't like me. She didn't want to know what the drugs does, what she's supposed to feel. She just said, okay, let me finish my treatment. But she didn't realize that she was yelling at her husband every day. And then when she's yelling at the husband in front of me, the husband will tell me, you know just let her yell if it makes her feel better. So she was lucky. Not everybody is so lucky, you know and the thing is, most of the time my observation is that when a cancer patient is going through all these things, they actually don't know. They don't realize that they're going through it. Of course, some takes advantage. There are patients also, like, in our church, we have certain teams that actually helps cancer patients. We arrange for food for them. We arrange for people to fetch them for treatment and all that, and they take advantage. you know and they say, okay, I want to choose my menu, I want to do this, I want so and so to fetch me because I like to sit in that car. Just watch out, because there are all kinds of people. We are all out to help, but there are also people who are not actually that sick, but they take advantage as well. It's not like everybody, you tell them certain things and they will comply. And then you get the terrible patients who don't comply, even they don't even listen to the doctors. All right. And they refuse certain things, halfway, midway. These are the ones, very seldom, but these are the ones that actually get into trouble halfway through treatment. Yeah. Okay.
Well spoken, Ms. Lim. Moving on to our next question. Most people can only imagine the kind of difficulties a cancer patient may go through and the resilience it takes through the treatment process. According to you, how can the social circle of the patient help them get through this? What are the key do's and don'ts to keep in mind?
Actually, there are no do's and don'ts because practicality reigns almost for everyone. And the doctors, not even the doctors, will know what you're going through unless that doctor had cancer before. And when I ask my doctor, he agrees. He says they can cure the disease, they cannot cure your fear. I always tell the family and the friends and my friends who have cancer, just be quietly present. Because even as family members, sometimes we don't know what to do. Like I have friends that say, oh, my classmate just had cancer. What should I bring her? There are lots of things she can't eat. People worry about the nitty gritty things which are not important. I said, just be there. Just be there for her. Yes, if you have to, you have to bring something to the house, you buy some fruits. You cannot go wrong with fruits. You know, chocolates may, if the person is not able to taste a lot of things, you won't want to say, you won't want to bring chocolates because I lost my taste. You know, you bring chocolates, you know, it's very gloomy. Chocolate is dark, it's very gloomy. It makes me feel worse because I can't taste it. All right. So just be quietly present, do small things for them, like bringing them, if you know they like certain things and they still could taste that particular taste bud is still working, bring them what they like just to cheer them up. They may not even eat it. All right, bring them, I don't know whether flowers is a good thing because some people, when you bring them flowers, it upsets them even more. All right. But things like helping them, one of my friends, I never forget, he was much older than me when I was going through treatment. He came to my house and mopped my whole house. He did my housework for me. And in his own house, he doesn't even do housework, you know. And I was like looking at this old man, you know, mopping my house, you know. I was like, gosh, I was so touched. But actually, I was secretly relieved because it means that that day I don't have to clean the house. Remember, I have 3, 4 cats in the house. So it can't be, it is kind of messy. All right. And he came, he says, oh, Agnes, I can't help you with much, you know, but let me clean your house. I said, no lah. I said, you know, I say lah, you know, I said I feel bad, you know, you're a guy, you know. Oh no, 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 it's okay, it's cool. Because then after I do it, you don't have to do it. And I actually let him and I felt good. Oh, for that day I don't have to clean the house, you know. And these are very small things like running errands for them, you know, like if, even if he's going downstairs to buy something or is like traveling like maybe 100 meters to buy something, these are things that mean a lot more, you know, than all the words in the world. All right. Nothing will comfort the patient because I'm feeling terrible. You're telling me all these things. You think I'm stupid or what? You know, you think that by telling me that, don't worry, you get better, I will get better. In fact, tomorrow I may feel worse because tomorrow is my chemo day. I'm going to come back feeling a lot worse. And you are telling me all this. Please don't tell me lies. You know, so actually, there's not a lot of things you can do because that person has to walk the journey themselves, you know, not just for cancer patients, even for heart patients, you know, someone who has gone through bypass. All right. You lose your voice too because you don't have the strength. Sometimes you don't have the strength to talk in your normal voice. All right. Everything is dark. So the thing is, there is no fixed rule. I always look at that person and I see how that person is handling it. Uh, Recently, just last week, I had a 72-year-old man who found out he had lung cancer suddenly. He's very fit, all right, and he had to go through a surgery at 72. He had to go through a surgery after someone actually uh, did a tapping of his lung. Tapping is when they have to remove water and air from your lung and accidentally punctured his lung. Can you imagine the nightmare? You actually are sick and then someone accidentally puncture your lungs and then you're told that you have to have a surgery to remove the tumor. So the wife called me. So I looked at the situation. You know, in Singapore, we cannot visit patients in the hospitals. We're not allowed to, even if you're the wife, unless the person is critically ill or is a baby that needs the mother. Then you can visit. So the poor wife was not able to visit him. And then he was in this situation. So we did the best we could. We arranged, you know, I got my surgeon actually to meet the wife outside the hospital, assess the case, and thank God, you know, this surgeon uh, was he's good lah. You know, it's the way he handled the patient. And finally, the patient just yesterday, the patient actually said, "We're very thankful we got this doctor. It's not that he's good; it's the way he talks to my husband. now my husband is all, up and about, and they have removed most of the tubes. Tomorrow, he's going to get discharged. Now, you see, when the doctor handles the patient well, and for me, if I had chosen the wrong doctor, if I had chosen a doctor who's got this stiff upper lip, who doesn't say anything, who just say, "Oh, you better get rid of this tumor. You better let me operate on you, otherwise you will die." Some doctors, they don't have the EQ. They don't have the emotional quotient to handle, because they know they are good. They can handle the problem, but actually the patient needs more than that. They need to be assured that, whatever you do to them, I'm going to go for an operation, which means that I'm going to have anesthetic, which means that I may sleep and not wake up. That's what the patient is thinking, the thought processes. So knowing the person, knowing what the person has gone through, and knowing who to get help. In this case, the wife was the one that handled everything. So I told the wife, I said, if you suddenly change your doctor, will the patient feel even more traumatized? Because one doctor operated on him, already punctured his lungs, and then you're going to change another doctor whom he has not met. Then the wife said, don't worry, he will listen to me if I'm the one that tell him to do it. And true enough. So another lucky patient, because he's got a wife who was very decisive, who could make decisions in a very tight, situation. So people going through it, sometimes if you're lucky and you happen to meet the right people, fine. But if you don't, you actually have to use your wisdom, not just to choose the doctor. You have to use your wisdom to know who can give the patient that comfort. It's like mentally as well, I mean, I grew up in a small, actually I grew up in a village. In Singapore, we hardly have villages lah, we are so tight. It's like a rural, it's a place that's just outside of town. And it's like, there were days when, I uh after I lost my mother, there were days when I was so miserable, because they always say, oh, a girl cannot do without the mother. A boy can do without the mother, but a girl cannot do without the mother. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm all alone in this whole wide world. I only have my father and my brothers, and they're all men, and they don't know what I'm going through, and I'm going through hell. I mean, it's like a 16-year-old girl, what hell can there be? Except you have to study hard and make sure you do well in school. So the thing is, for a patient, especially a cancer patient, they're thinking of death. Breast cancer patients may have a little bit more stigma, because they'll be embarrassed. They are worried that some of them, they may lose their breast. So they may be worried about what happens to my husband. Will he go after other women? I mean, these are things you have to speak out loud and not hush hush. I mean, in certain cultures, I know you don't say certain things. It's not proper to say certain things. But when you're alone with the patient, say it, because you're saying it for the patient. Actually, she wants to say it. But when you say it and she actually hears it, she feel a lot better, and then maybe she'll start sharing. And when she starts sharing, mental health is like that. When you get the person to actually open, okay, I was invited to a house once, a rebellious boy, 15-year-old boy. The mother is a divorcee. He has no father. The mother can't handle him. I went with a friend to try to help them, and the son was cursing and swearing at the mother when we reached there. So I told the mother, I said, can I have some time alone with your son? And she said, of course, please. When I went into the room, I could smell cigarette. 15-year-old boy, intelligent boy. And he refused to talk to anyone. So it was no use when I went in. So I said, hey, I smell cigarette. Can I have one? And he kind of like stared at me, this auntie, you know, coming in to ask for cigarette. Is she real or not? Can she really smoke or not? Of course, I gave up smoking a long time ago. I try a lot of things, not illegal stuff, but I try, growing up in a kampong, you want to be one of the boys, all right? And all the boys smoke, all right? So I said, can you give me one? So he said, Auntie, really? That was his first word. Really? You smoke? So I said, yeah, why not? Only you smoke? You mean other people cannot smoke? So he actually gave me a cigarette. So he lighted it for me. And then I said, oh, this is good. How do you get the money to buy the cigarette? It's not cheap, you know. Then that was how the conversation started. And then he started complaining about his mother. This is mental health. Being together in the same box with that person. Don't talk to the cancer patient like she is sick, you are well, you are there to help her. If you go in with the attitude, you're not very helpful. You're actually talking down to the person. But if someone has cancer and you kind of go into the same box, so what I do is when I'm in front of the patient, I will always tell them, I'm a survivor. And a lot of them will say, are you sure? Don't bluff. You look very well. Don't kind of tell me you are the same as me. So I said, you ask the doctor over here. He's my doctor. I'm his patient. Yours is only first stage. Mine is almost third stage. Look at me. I made it. So can you. So when you put yourself in the same box, in the same shoes as the person who is suffering, that is when they open up. You may not help them a lot, but they will feel a lot more rested. They will feel that, oh, I'm not alone. So it goes back to the beginning when I was talking about aloneness. Lonely is different from alone. The whole family goes there. She's not lonely. She has lots of food, lots of hee hee ha ha. But when you all go home and she's on her bed, that is aloneness. And that aloneness is the thing that gets to the patients. All of them, whether they be men or ladies. And we have been there. All of us have been there. I mean, you all are very young, but I'm sure there must be a time in your life when you feel alone, when you feel nobody understands you. And the way you have turned up, obviously you found help from the right places, and now you have something very proud to be proud of because of where you are despite what you went through. And you be the new people for the next. You'll be the next generation that will be handling all this, and we will have more and more mental health issues everywhere in the world, because as we get more sophisticated, and we don't know when COVID is going to go, there'll be more and more, because people are forced to stay at home. They're forced to do things they don't like. They're forced to work differently. They're forced to change their job, and society changes, and then the government is telling you, you have to do this, you have to do that, and you are afraid. Every new step, there is no guarantee that you take your vaccination, you won't die, because we all know, even if you're fully vaxxed, you can die. Even in Singapore, we are almost 90%, 85%, all of us are double vax, 85 to 90%. And every day we have 10, 15, 20 people dying. So it doesn't mean that you won't die, but the thing is, you don't want to die alone, feeling alone. All right. And cancer is something, this is something that I want to share. Cancer is actually a very kind disease. Why do I say that? In spite of what I have shared, if you get a heart attack while you are jogging, you die on the spot. All right. And your family is not near you, there's no time for you to prepare, and you could be 32 years old. All right. But if you have cancer, depending on what kind of cancer, which stage of the cancer, where you are in the world, what kind of treatment and help that you have available, even at the very worst, you have time to prepare. There are people who write letters to their children and their husband on their bed, hospital bed, before they die. All right. There are people who go for holidays, their dream holidays, their bucket list holiday, before they die. All right. And there are people who take care of all the financial arrangement before they die. And even though for patients who are last stage, terminal cancer patients, they still have time to spend with their loved ones, because you don't die instantly. You kind of, the sad part is that you degenerate, your body actually, you see, you actually lose that person gradually. So does dementia. You actually the person lose their mind. They don't recognize you. Even your own mother don't recognize you. You can imagine how sad it is. But cancer, you still recognize people, and you still have time to make decisions. So I always say, no matter how much it ravages your body, cancer is quite kind. It gives you time. It lets you make decisions. And I always tell my patients, if you are poor, go the poor way. You still got a chance. You're in Singapore, you're in a advanced country. You're not in a village, in a village in the countryside where the doctor is like 100 miles away. So if you have money, you go another way. Of course, when you have money, it's more comfortable, and you have more comfortable because the drugs that you have access to are more refined. So that is what cancer is about. In Singapore, in the advanced country, I think even in your countries, let's say two men, one is 32 years old, one is 72 years old. Both have lung cancer, both have second stage lung cancer. Both goes to a public hospital for treatment. But we know if you don't have money, you go to a public hospital, you still get treated. But the chances of that 32-year-old man are better because he can handle the side effect a lot better. All right. So the chances of the 72-year-old man may not be so good because all of them is only second stage cancer. Can be cured. All right. But the side effect, the old man cannot handle it because he's 72 years old. So I always tell my patient, even if you're poor, because I have patients that say, I have no money, I cannot afford the treatment, no matter how, I want to die. So you know what I tell them? All right, with your kind of cancer, I did it to a guy once. I said, for your kind of cancer, if you want to give up, nobody can help you. It's your choice. But I will tell you how you're going to die. So I told him stage by stage what's going to happen. I said, if you don't believe me, it's very cruel. But I said, if you don't believe me, check with your doctor. This is how you will die. Do you know? He doesn't want to die after what I told him. All right. I mean, his was a terminal cancer, but he didn't want to die. He fought really hard. And, occasionally he'll say, hey, Agnes, I'm running out of my morphine. Can you get me morphine? I say, I'm not a drug peddler. You go to your doctor, So these are things that we don't think of. We only think of the disease. Why do you give the disease so much respect? You should give yourself the respect. Even if you're suffering from cancer, give yourself the respect. And if you give yourself the respect, whether you make it or you don't, you'll be all right. You don't lose yourself. But if you give so much fear and respect to the cancer, you lost even before you tried anything. You already lose the battle, and this is something that please help to share, because you people have longer arms. Help to share with whoever you come across who are lucky enough to meet you. Share with them because it's like almost every 5 person that you know, one person will know somebody who has cancer. All right, in the cities, at least in the cities, and then it's only during times like this at my age, then I realized how nice it is to live in the village because we were so dirty, kids, you play in the drain, you play in the streams, you come back all drenched and muddy, but you never get sick because the air is clean. All right, and then you always come back for dinner because as kids, we are not given much money. Now the kids are richer than the parents because grandparents give, So the thing is, anyone facing cancer, don't give cancer so much respect. You don't, your attention, your focus should not be on cancer. The focus should be on what am I going to do about it? Okay, I know you're there. I acknowledge that you have come into my life. I acknowledge that I have to deal with you, but I have help. I have my doctors, I have the medicine, which is getting better and better. You are still there. Yeah, you can mutate and be better, but the medicine can also get better. The doctors are getting better. The technology is getting better. And if you have a religion, I have God. If you don't have a religion, I have my mother, I have my father, I have my whole family behind me. Don't think you're gonna win. Even if you win, I will not let you win lying down. I will fight you. And I don't even need to be strong because I have all the people around me. So it's very important. Even your friends. I mean, I don't have a big family. So a lot of the time it's my friends who are coming around me. So I was thoroughly spoiled. They did my shopping, they did my laundry. Laundry as in they bring my clothes to the laundrette. They do my marketing until I had my housekeeper, and then I have my cat. So there are people who actually come and, bring me my cat supplies, my cat food, you know. So the thing is, it's actually more important that you have friends. Even the worst, even criminals, they have friends who believe in them. So I'm sure everyone, if you put your mind to it, cancer is no big deal. Of course, I'm afraid. Every cancer patient, your biggest fear is that the cancer comes back. We know, once you have cancer, you are actually given an extended life. Cancer very seldom. There are a few cancers that do have cures, like certain lymphomas. You can actually get cured completely, but every cancer patient is afraid the cancer comes back. So we deal with it differently. I deal with it by going to my Chinese herbalist. So she has kept me healthy for the last 17 years, because that's what I chose. With Western medicine, it's a necessary evil, but the side effects are something that I feel that my body may not handle that well. So when it comes to herbs, if the herbs don't work, nothing happens. If the herbs work, you actually get better. So now sometimes my housekeeper and my daughter, when they have flu, I run to the herbalist and I get my herbs. I don't get flu. And I'm supposed to be the one with the immune problem. So in life, in anything, whether it's mental, it's physical, I guess there are practical things you can do. You can eat the right food. For cancers, um, uh, I don't tell people. Most friends will tell you, you cannot eat this, you cannot eat that. If you eat this, this will happen. If you eat, I do it the other way around. I tell them what you can eat. Don't look at what you can't eat. Look at what you can eat. So in the Asian society, maybe you can also share with me sometime later. In the Asian society, we believe that there are two groups of food. One is yin, one is yang. Have you heard? Okay. Yin is all the food that is cooling. So it's green vegetables, green apples, radishes. Yang is all the food that are brightly colored: carrots, strawberries, blueberries, strawberries. All right. And cancer, we believe in Asian culture, cancer we believe is a yin disease. It's a yin disease. So you don't take too much cooling stuff, except after radiotherapy, because radiotherapy puts a lot of heat in your body. All right. So after radiotherapy, we drink coconut water, all right, to flush it out. Okay. So on a normal day, we will stop taking white vegetables, green vegetables, we take yellow vegetables, we take carrots, we take potatoes, So this one you can go into detail and you can study, you can do your research. You will find it in the annals, a lot of the Chinese books, they actually separate. There are actually books in the market that separates what are yin food, what are yang food, So these are things that I learned along the way and I share with the patients. I think have I extended my time? I've spoken so much. Yeah.
No worries about that. Moving on to the next question. Fighting a battle against cancer is definitely not easy. It's not an easy thing to imagine, let alone experience it. Genuinely awestruck by your courage and resilience. It is truly inspiring. What, according to you, are some of the key values or lifestyle habits one should keep in mind if ever faced with a challenge as immense as yours? We could definitely learn a lot from you.
Okay. Let me see my notes. Actually, I think I've shared some of it before. Uh, Actually, I hope nobody has to go through the challenge. Cancer is something that you don't even wish upon your enemies. You know, looking at what people have to go through, even if you dislike that person intensely, you don't even wish it on your enemy. But actually, the first thing is to avoid having to go through the challenge. All right. And it's so simple. Go for regular screening. All right. And when I say screening, there are only two groups of screening. You go for screening basic, which they only take a blood test and your urine and your maybe a chest x-ray and your mammogram. It is actually to make sure it's the cheapest way and it's the safest way to make sure that you are clear every year. All right. The other thing, which is the not so good thing, if you have to do that, it means that one of your doctors probably suspect that something is wrong. So it is a diagnostic screening. So when it's diagnostic screening, the main thing about diagnostic screening is to establish either the presence or the absence of disease. So this will be in the form of CT scans, ultrasounds, and then for lung cancer patient is CT thorax. For breast cancer patient, of course, you do your mammogram, and some cancers actually escape the mammogram, so you may have to go further. You may have to do CT scans, or you have to do probably do biopsies. All right. I'm sure you have heard of people doing biopsy for the breast. Much as it sounds terrible, breast biopsy is actually a very minor procedure. All right. It is such a minor procedure that is a day surgery procedure. You actually go home 2 hours after you do it. You actually go home, and the worst part is waiting for the results and hoping that it's negative. So the thing is that this is the biggest hurdle to make sure that you go for your test, so you don't have to meet the challenge. It's a challenge nobody wants to have. All right. But if you're one of those that didn't make it and have to go for the challenge, remember, it's your genes too. Okay. For breast cancer, stomach cancer, prostate cancer, and there's another cancer called NPC, which is a nasopharyngeal cancer, which is what my late husband had. These are all DNA hereditary cancers. You can't run away from it. So if there's a family member, if you have a son and there's a family member, let's say your grandfather has had prostate cancer, what do? Go for prostate cancer screening early, even if you're in your 20s. For the guys, go for it, because the blood test for prostate cancer is one of the best indicators as to whether there is a possibility of disease. So these are things that there's nothing you can do to change your lifestyle. You cannot eat more healthy or exercise to avoid all these things. But other than that, I think most of the time, you just live a normal life, and you don't respect your body, get enough sleep. Sleep is one of the best healing processes that our bodies can go through. All right. If there's stress, make up a grit your teeth and make a big decision. If it's your job that's stressing you too much, are you able to get another job? Make less or change your lifestyle so that you get another job that doesn't give you the same amount of stress. All right. Sometimes it's worth it. Okay. I had to give up my insurance career, just about a year after my husband had found out that he had NPC last stage, so I had to give it up. I mean, of course, you worry about money for the treatment when you stop your work, but then it's a choice. I tell myself, if he doesn't make it and I give up my job, it's worth it. I can look for a job another time. But if he make it, if he make it, then it's worth giving up what I give. So there is always opportunity cost in life. You give up something, you get something. Opportunity cost is giving up something so that you get something back. You cannot have the cake and eat it in a situation like that. So no, the basically there is nothing that you can actually do, except if you are smoking a lot. That's the most obvious thing. Smoking does cause lung cancer. All right. If you're smoking a lot, or if your husband is smoking a lot and you are not smoking, tell him to stop, because you can get cancer from passive smoke. We all know that. All right. So that is the only thing that for lifestyle that I guess for your part of the world, actually your men quite good now. A lot of them don't smoke, right? In your part of the world. In our part of the world, they smoke, they get into the circle, the vicious circle, when they're 13, to prove that they are men. All right. So that's the thing. Smoking is one of the worst. In China, where stomach cancer is the number one killer, is their food. Out of 10 Chinese mainlanders that come from China for screening, for checkup, 8 of them have the pylori bacteria, which is actually from their lifestyle. All right. And we all know pylori bacteria, it is eventually, if you don't get rid of it, you actually it ends up with you having stomach cancers. So lifestyle, yes, you can look at your food, but the only thing I will say is stop smoking. Those who are smoking, it's really scary. You have not seen how a lung cancer patient suffers towards the last stage. It's scary. It scares even me. I have seen people die, in front of me, and yet it scares me, because they really gasp for breath, and it's the organs fail one by one, and there's nothing the doctor can do towards the end. Even though you have the best doctors, you have all the money in the world, it's a horrible way to die. So those friends of yours, no matter how stressed they are, tell them, frighten the hell out of them. I always tell the relatives, just frighten them so much, that they will give up. And there are certain I think probably, in the countries that people smoke a lot, some of your colleagues might want to start something to discourage, because we have workshops, we have seminars, we have all kinds of things to help people to stop smoking. It's a long process, but it's a worthy process. Yeah. So I think that answers your question 5, right?
So thank you for answering that question really well. Moving
Sorry?
on,
Okay.
uh, moving on to the next question. You're a true icon in your field, and we would love to hear your impact story. How has your work with Medical Network impacted your life personally?
How has it impacted my life? Okay. I will tell you 2 stories. Okay. I will try to get it through fast so that, we don't spend that much time. The first one, of course, is myself. Life is very fragile. That is how uh, it really hits me. You talk about it as a cliche, but life really is fragile, and I tell you why. Even though I was so fortunate to have gone through all the treatment, I was 50 actually when I had I discovered I had cancer. So it's not exactly early in life, but after I've gone through and I got cured, um, I thought that, you know, I will do what I want to do and live happily ever after. But 2 years after I finished my treatment, my husband contracted NPC, and it was final stage. And I knew by that time I was already doing the business. So I knew that he didn't have long to live, because the first sentence that came out of the oncologist's mouth after checking him was, "Well, it's a pity that you came so late, but we will still try our best to give you the best palliative care." Now, that was an ugly word. It was so ugly that I pretended I didn't hear it. And fortunately for my husband, he didn't hear it, because he was worrying, he was looking at his blood tests and all that, and he didn't hear it. So that was so terrible, because although the doctor told him in front of him, I had to keep quiet, knowing that he will be going soon, and not being able to tell him to prepare himself, except tell him to do all the critical things and coming up with stories so that he do it in a natural course of life and not because he was dying. All right. But the worst part was watching him degenerate day by day. But nothing prepared me for the doctor who treated me, the one who operated on me and actually saved my life. Early in April this year, he's a very healthy guy, all right? Early April this year, he found out that he had pancreatic cancer. And he's one of the kindest doctors in the whole, well, all the doctors that I work with in Singapore. He was one of those that, he didn't care whether you had insurance, you have no insurance, you're rich, you're poor. Whoever came to him, he will give you the treatment that save you the most money with the skills that he have. And that's it. Even the rich, sometimes their bills were like $200 for a regular screening check. And he'll tell you, this check you don't have to do, that check you don't have to do. You just go and do this check because this one will determine what happens. All right. And if you have no money, he will just tell you, pay the hospital. And what he does is he actually, all the staff in the hospital that he works, is like, it's a secret message, all the nurses, the staff that works in the hospital. Every Friday afternoon, I learned that not even from him, I learned that from the staff. Every Friday afternoon, he puts aside time for staff in the hospital with cancer to go to him for treatment. $50. You know how much, what $50 can buy in Singapore? One day taxi fare is already $50 if you make 4 trips. $50 for the staff. But this is like on the quiet, only the staff knows. All right. He passed away 2 weeks after he discovered he had pancreatic cancer. So that is something that made me sit up. Life is so fragile. And he's 4 years younger than me. The other side of the story is that the other story that I want to share is that, I had a patient. This is the opposite. I had a patient who had cervical cancer, 50 years old, but she was so terrified of having heard what cancer treatment is like that she just keep going to a herbalist. This is the other way around. Until her tumor grew to 20 cm. You know how big a 20 cm tumor is, And luckily, her insurance agent actually came to me and said, hey, this is happening. Can you help? So I said, well, if she's willing to listen, of course we can help. And what happened was, when we admitted her on the second day, the whole tumor ruptured. She's supposed to die. When your tumor that's 20 cm ruptured inside you, you're supposed to die. She didn't die. We managed, because once the tumor rupture, there'll be a lot of infection, right? So of course, we sort of get together about 10 doctors, infectious disease control doctor, radiotherapy doctor, we had a chemo doctor, we have an oncologist, we had a kidney, a urologist that actually had to put stents in her kidney. Then she had kidney sepsis, so we had to drain the kidney. 3 months later, she walked out of the hospital on her own. She's not cured, of course, but because the tumor has burst, it's now 3.5 cm. All right. And we give her immunotherapy. And of course, she has a chance now, when her health is stable, she has a chance to have that tumor removed. So this is the other end. You think somebody is going to die, they don't die. It's not time. All right. Where else? My doctor, he's so healthy, and he just went after 2 weeks. So life is very fragile. So for me, the impact that he has given me is actually he has driven out a lot of fear from me, in the sense that I'm not afraid anymore. But I don't know whether I can still say that if I have cancer, but it's like it takes the sting. I'm still fearful, I think. I will still be fearful, but it takes the sting out of death, because you know that there are things you can do. So the impact it has on me, and especially the way I look at life, a lot of things are not important. Which girl doesn't like diamonds, right? Diamonds are a girl's best friend. When girls grow old, men grow cold, but the diamonds don't. It appreciates in value. All right. So the thing is, I realized that a lot of things in life are not important anymore. And I say it with a lot of conviction. It's not just saying it, all right? Because at the point where I was told you have cancer, 2 things crossed my mind. Better check my insurance and see whether I paid my premiums, okay, so that I can claim my insurance. Then the second thing that crossed my mind, which was very sad, was, oh dear, if I die, the only thing that I can control is how much money do I give to which person, even with the insurance money that you have. The only decision you can make that you can control is how much money can I give to which person. And that really frightened me so much. But then you realize money really is not important. It's important when you are struggling to survive, when the basic, hierarchy of needs are not met. Then yes, and you go and tell a hungry person that money is not important, they'll think you're mad. All right. But once you have reached a certain section of the Maslow's, hierarchy, you know that no matter how rich you are, there's not much you can do. You can't give somebody money to buy back, or you can't, no one else can die on your behalf. So it's very sobering, and sometimes I tell my daughter, I say, I'm going to spend all my money, so that just in case I die. Then my daughter says, so what if you don't die? Who's gonna pay your bills? So that was quite funny. So seriously, a lot of things which matter so much become unimportant, after I see, so young, very young people. My nephew, my Indonesian nephew, he passed away when he was 42. His eldest kid was only 13. You should see him begging my doctor to please help him. We all turned away because we knew it was terminal. He was one of those who was so fearful that he delayed his treatment, but we kept him alive for 3 years. We actually kept him alive. I mean, we had very good oncologists, all right, and you can read his story actually on my website. We have a couple of stories, and the thing is, at the end of the day, it will change you, the observer. It should change the patient for the better, especially if they get well. And there are some people who change their lifestyle completely when they know they're going to die. But of course, all this takes a lot of strength, After you're recovered, then that's the time to be strong. No need to be strong when you're sick. Don't tell a sick person try to be strong. It's not possible. It's really not possible. You're adding a burden to that person when you tell the person, you must be strong, you must be strong for your children, You must get well for your children. You don't have to be strong for your children, but you must get well before you can be there for your children. Yeah. So that's what I have to say. But the good thing about having gone through what I went through is that when I decided to do this business, of course, originally I didn't know it was so complicated. I didn't know doctors, and I hope some of them listen in. I didn't know doctors were such a difficult breed, such an arrogant lot. Some of them, of course, they deserve it because they are good. They're really good. All right. But, when I decided to get into this, I didn't bargain for what I had to go through because some of the doctors who were good and I wanted to get them on my panel, I had to run after them shamelessly to get them on my panel because I knew they were going to be able to save my patient one day. And shamelessly, as in they tell me they are not free. So I wait outside their clinic to finish when they finish their patients, and I go in and talk to them again and again until they say, okay. Since you are so determined, let's see how it pans out. All right. So these are things that I'm actually quite proud that I got some of the best in the region, to the extent that some of them can actually do things which cannot be done in even some of the advanced cities. For instance, I had a nuclear physician. He's pretty young, brilliant guy. He handles nuclear medicine, and there are about 13 of these doctors in the whole of Singapore, and only about, I think, 5 or 6 are in private practice. All right. What he does is, all the liver cancer patients who have inoperable cancers, meaning cannot be operated on because of sometimes the positioning of the tumor. And some of them actually have gone through chemo and stuff like that, and it didn't work. So he has this technology using nuclear medicine, 2 treatments, and the tumor actually shrinks on its own over a 3-month period. And the patient actually spends about 2 weeks for the 1 week for the first treatment, and another 3 weeks later, he comes back for the second treatment, 2 treatment. But it's palliative because, the tumor shrinks, but it doesn't go away. But then you buy a new lease of life, So these are people I chase after shamelessly because I think it's worth it. What is my pride when I almost lost my life? Don't hang on to your pride. Hang on to more important things in life because life is so short here. I mean, how long do you live here? 100 years? Not many of us live up to 100 years. So hanging on to pride is of no use. So now when I talk to the arrogant doctors, they kind of tolerate me and put up with me because some of them actually realize that, I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it for, of course, I have to make some money, it's a business, all right? But they realize that I'm actually doing it for the patient because some of them have been very nasty, and now they're very kind. A lot of the front that doctors put up is a front. At the bottom of their hearts, they're actually very kind when they see a person suffering, and this, I had a liver surgeon doctor. He's one of the most arrogant, also very young. He's a brilliant guy, a brilliant surgeon, 45, I think this year he's 45. All right. He started by trying to do child cancer. He started by doing surgery for children. He said he couldn't handle it. He said seeing the babies have cancer, seeing young children suffer the way they suffer, he couldn't handle it. So he became a liver surgeon. You know, he's still arrogant, but I always tell you, you softy lah, you know, don't pretend that, you know, you're so tough, you know. But we all have, I think, three sides to all of us. One is the side we want to show to the world to protect ourselves. One is the side that you keep to yourself, you know, and one is the one that you fight with yourself all the time. You want to be this, but then your inclination is you want to be that, you know. So, but the almost all of us have two sides. So the face that you want to show to the world and the person that you really are. So at the end of the day, even for cancer patients, you find out who they really are. Sometimes you actually find out who they really are when they are sick. You know, because they can't control themselves anymore. Yeah. So that's your sixth question.
Yes, for our final question, since you do have a vast amount of experience with breast cancer patients and have studied them throughout their journey, could you just tell us some valuable lessons or major takeaways to our audience?
Okay, to the breast cancer patients, I would just say acknowledge the reality and the after effects of the treatment, whatever it is, because some breast cancer patients will end up without breast at the end of the treatment, and also don't worry about what men and women actually thinks about you, because you know you have fought a battle and you have won despite everything. You have gone through an experience that no one else has gone through, so you're actually special. All right, so we should have different bodies celebrating breast cancer survivors, celebrating women cancers, you know, celebrating different kind of survivors, you know. So that is the one thing. But be aware that every day, every month, every year, there are always new medication, new tech coming up. And especially recently, I just shared with you about the liver cancers. For blood cancers, for bone cancers, I think Bibin will realize that, all right? For prostate cancer even, we have nuclear medicine as well. Every day, there are new things coming out, even for lung cancer, whether it's non-small cell or small cell lung cancer. There are so many new drugs coming out that there is no need to fear death. The fear is yourself. How are you going to handle yourself? And go for genetic counseling. If you have members in your family that have cancer, you don't want to suffer the same thing as them. You can prevent it. Knowing it early, you can actually walk away from it if you find out early. All right. But the only thing I hope is that by my sharing, by today's sharing, if I just give hope to one person who is struggling, I think it's worth all our time. If it's one life that you give hope to and that person comes out and shines, you know, and share it with their circle, I think it's worth all our time. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You've given us some great insights and imparted us with valuable lessons that we will definitely be taking forward in life. On behalf of the audience, I would like to thank you for sharing your experiences and expertise with us. We really appreciate the time that you've taken to talk to us despite your busy schedule. On behalf of the Smile Guild and Girl Up Northern Emirates team, we would like to wish you all the very best for your future endeavors. Thank you so much, Ms. Lim, for giving us some time to us today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. Bye-bye.